Welcome to the ArtistFirst World Radio Network, ArtistFirst.com. Tony K in the studio. Thanks for joining us, everyone, worldwide. If you're an author, independent recorded artist, or have a fabulous organization you'd love to introduce, just follow the links we've provided at ArtistFirst.com, and we'd be happy to help you out. This hour, it's my privilege to introduce Dr. Ted Grosser, President Emeritus of AngelCare. To learn more about the organization and get involved yourself with helping others worldwide, we invite you to follow the link www.angelcareforchildren.org. Be sure to remember all of the broadcasts are available free on demand. So after you listen to the broadcast, be sure to share it with everyone you know on your social network sites and your websites. Joining us with Dr. Ted Grosser will be personal friend and acquaintance Suzanne Grable. She is a wonderful supporter of the arts on Artist First Radio and has been out there in a big way supporting the arts and humanitarian efforts worldwide. Suzanne, thank you for being our guest and for introducing us to Dr. Ted Grosser.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'd like to speak for a moment how I met Dr. Grosser. Interestingly, I was born into the Jewish faith, and right now this week is the season of joy, and it's very joyful you having him on as your guest. But one day I was in the elevator, and I saw a young gal with a smudge on her forehead, and I said, "Ma'am, you've got dirt on your forehead." And she said to me, "Well, ma'am, it's Ash Wednesday." Well, little did I know what that was about. And a few years later, I was walking down the road with one of my dogs, and there was a beautiful sign out of Hope Lutheran Church in Hancock Park, Los Angeles, and it said, "Happy Holidays to our Jewish friends," and I was really struck by that. And there was a series of lectures being given during Lent season by Dr. Grosser, so I decided, the next week that I would go in and listen to one of the lectures and learn more about Lent season and Ash Wednesday, and that's how I met Dr. Grosser. And I'd like to turn the interview over to the both of you because I know that you'll have a lot to cover, and I feel very, very joyful that you're interviewing him today. It's just been something that I've wanted for a long time.
Thank you, Suzanne. God bless you. We at Artist First Radio are so appreciative of all of the listeners out there, and you would be just amazed at the quality of the guests that our listeners direct our way. As a matter of fact, Suzanne, you introduced Artie Kornfeld, the father of the 1969 Woodstock, to Artist First Radio, and he has a broadcast every Tuesday evening now. So thank you for supporting the arts and always looking out for some good content. And this organization that we're about to introduce our audience to with President Emeritus Dr. Ted Grosser is an organization everyone needs to know more about. And I would hope that all of our listeners feel at liberty to share the information they're going to learn today. Dr. Grosser, AngelCare was started in 1977 by Lieutenant Commander Donald L. Miller. And in 1987, he chose you to become his successor as president. Since 1987, you've taken AngelCare to over 50 nations worldwide, and you're involved in the earthquake relief effort in Haiti, which happened more recently. Now, you're President Emeritus under Americans Care and Share, which was founded in 2006 by Anna Espano, and offering college scholarship funding to first-generation Americans and globally to disadvantaged children. Thank you, and God bless you, for this fabulous, fabulous organization, and I'm just learning about it for the first time, and so excited to have you with us.
Well, I think one of the things I'll share with you that's kind of makes it very, very special is that Donald Miller just died at the age of 92. And he'd written a number of books and so on, but he considered AngelCare to be his greatest achievement.
Yes, and what a privilege it must have been for you to have his vision, to share his vision for these many decades.
Oh, right. And it's not often that someone takes over an organization from the founder and can really run with it without the founder getting in the way. And Don never did that. Don was always supportive and very positive.
In memory of Donald L. Miller, you knew him as a personal friend, business associate, travel companion, as you grew and expanded the organization. Tell us about the man.
Don Miller was a fascinating man because he had been in naval intelligence, and then he went into the public relations business in Washington, D.C., or in Alexandria, a suburb. And he was almost like a dreamer. He almost lived in a world where everything was getting better, and it always upset him when it wasn't. And one of the reasons after 10 years, he needed to step down was because we needed to raise money, and that's the last thing in the world Don wanted to ask anybody for. I just cannot say enough good things about this man, and I'll honor his memory the rest of my life.
Well, having this deep compassion really grew from the Vietnamese boat people experience for
right.
him. That was a concrete, pivotal moment in his life that he knew he was going to apply his intellect, his energy, his soul to this effort.
Yes, it was. And I had been the president of another organization called Amigos de las Americas out of Houston, which was like a private Peace Corps. And we introduced that vision into AngelCare in what we call Angels on a Mission. And in the next year, in 2013, we're going to be building a new school in a remote area of the Philippines, and the land was donated to us. The man inherited it, and he donated it if we used it for a school. So we're going to bring volunteers from the United States to the Philippines, and they will work with the local people and local laborers and live among the people and experience not only what poverty's like, but also come home with a new appreciation of what America's like.
Absolutely, and I want to remind the audience, please visit the website, AngelCare, 4, children.org. You could get involved right away by calling 1-888-ANGLCARE or 1-619-481-3085. Learn all the details at AngelCare, 4, children.org. Dr. Ted Grosser, President Emeritus, and Suzanne are joining us to talk about the organization. Questions, comments? Send them to the organization. Yes, they want your involvement. You can learn all the details at the website. Ted, this is fabulous.
They can also go to our Facebook page, which is facebook.com and then a / and then AngelCare for Children. And there is, in fact, pictures that go back to 1977 and move forward with the various activities that we have had over the years.
And if you become a friend on Facebook, then that means all of your friends are then introduced, correct?
That's right. That's correct.
So it's a great way for everyone to get involved in your family and in your social network. Now, as an organization, do you have chapters in 50 states? How do people get involved locally?
Mostly, the people who are involved locally are doing one of two things. They're either doing fundraising events for the children and so on, or they are raising money and training people to go on the Angels on a Mission program.
So you're looking for professionals as well, business owners that can contribute their knowledge and expertise.
Oh, yes. And people who know, for instance, construction. Some of the most neat things that I've seen happen are retired carpenters coming out and then teaching local people in countries like Guatemala or the Philippines or elsewhere how to do this, and how to hammer a nail, and how to saw, and how to do it evenly so that it looks good in the end. And they really get into that, and friendships have been formed. It's hard for me even to describe the transformation that happens in people who let themselves be exposed to poverty, and come to know the people not as a statistic or a stereotype, but as a human being, and it just really is transforming.
We've all seen on television the commercials of the starving children and their needs, and I know that many have apathy regarding how much of the actual donation makes it to the effort. Tell us a little bit about how AngelCare and your organization, through Americans Care and Share, how is it able for you to reach the people with funds?
Well, first of all, what everybody's interested in is how much goes to the program, and it's about 90 cents out of a dollar.
Wow.
That means we don't pay people very much.
If only our government worked so efficiently.
Yeah, right. Well, and sometimes it's harder because we have to jerry-rig something or make do, and we rely very much on volunteers. But our funds come from the biggest single source of funds for us are military people who have served overseas, and they have seen the need. Many of them have just done wonderful things in helping build schools or work on an orphanage or something like that, and they appreciate what we're doing, and they've been extremely generous. We have some support for our work here in the United States coming from United Ways, from businesses like AT&T and IBM and so on, and we're getting the donations from their employees who in fact specify and designate us. So it comes from a whole lot of different sources, a whole lot of different churches too.
Are there ways for young people to get involved? Youth groups and Boy Scouts of America or Girl Scouts of America or other organizations that want to take up the cause?
Yes, there surely are. All they have to do is give me a call, and I will personally call them back and get them involved. They can get involved. Probably one of the two best ways would be we have a child sponsorship program where we run schools in Guatemala, in the Philippines, and in Cambodia. And the schools are supported by individuals or groups, church youth groups and so on, that sponsor a child for $30 a month. And then they get not only the picture, but they get correspondence and get to, again, build a relationship between that group, the individuals in it, and a child in a developing country. The other way would be to work on becoming a volunteer in our Angels on a Mission program, which again in this next year is going to be going to the Philippines to build this school. So there are those ways they can in fact get very directly involved, both with our program and the children that we serve.
So they can volunteer to actually go there for a week, a month, a year?
Mostly they go for between 2 and 3 weeks.
Yeah, because that's a long way to travel. It's not a vacation. It's not a working holiday. You're there to actually instruct and disciple others and train them to be able to continue on with what
exactly
you're passing on to them.
It's not a time when you go to play tourist. Now, if you go on a 3-week short-term mission like that, there'll be a couple of days where you'll be in the capital and play tourist and so on. But by and large, you're out in a more remote area. And in fact, in the Philippines this next year, they're going to be on a completely different island from the mainland where the capital is and so on. They're going to be on the island of Mindoro in a little village called Victoria. And how the Philippines village got named Victoria, I don't know.
We can only imagine. No. But look, this is exciting work. There's so much to do worldwide, Dr. Grosser. Are there criteria for determining what need or what location you're going to be focused on next?
Well, it's sometimes there's a very pointed and planned program. What we try to do is be aware of what are called the Millennium Goals, where almost 200 countries, their presidents came and signed goals that the United Nations and UNICEF had set out to educate children, to wipe out measles and these other diseases, to make certain that young girls are properly trained and given an opportunity to excel as human beings and not just as things. That's for the most part how we try to pattern ourselves and set our goals for a 5-year period. The big goals are to be reached by the year 2015. And the interesting thing is that they're probably almost 75% met. Some of them are real challenging goals. There's another way that we get involved in a project. Right now, it looks like we're going to probably expand into Honduras, which is the country next to the Philippines, next to Guatemala in Central America. And what's funny and fun is that both my wife and I worked in the Philippines in the 60s. And then we went about our business. And in this past year, one of my successors from Amigos, who became the president, resigned and became the Peace Corps director in Honduras. And put my wife, Janet, in touch with a young Peace Corps volunteer who was in the village of Moraita, where my wife had been a volunteer in 1966.
Oh, my.
Yeah, oh, my. And then I went on the Internet really almost at random and ended up on the site of a young man that I had confirmed and trained when I was active in the Lutheran Church. And I listened. I just punched a sermon of his, and he was telling about his trip to Honduras. And Janet and I just sat there and said, looks like we'll be opening up a program in Honduras. And he probably will. Not this year, but probably in 2014. So sometimes it's just a way of things happening, and you just feel led that way, I guess you could say. And other times, you're just kind of like making cold calls and see what happens.
I'm so glad that you're bringing this up, Dr. Grosser, because I think so many people believe they're just throwing pearls to the wind, to the swine or whatever, that it will never really make a dent or a difference by contributing and helping the extreme poor in their circumstance, whether it's a hurricane or a natural disaster or just a horrific place to live. I think many people are afraid that they're not. But look, there are results. Lives are changed. People can be taught, educated, given health, and make a big difference in their homeland, in their community as a result of these efforts. So I'm very excited about the thousands you have participating in your efforts and the funding, and I would invite all of our listeners worldwide to get involved, visit the website. If you call the number that we gave out previously, you'll find you're contacting San Diego, California. The number is 619-481-3085 or 888 AngelCare. Learn all the details at AngelCare, the number 4, children.org. And making a difference, and then coming back, as you said, a decade later, and seeing someone that you can recognize and know that change has occurred in a positive way. How exhilarating this has to be.
Yeah, let me give you one other example, because lots of people wonder, you do this little thing here and this little thing there, and what'll it do? 40 years ago when I started, 50,000 children died every single day from hunger or hunger-related illnesses. In 2011, that number had been reduced to less than 20,000.
Wow.
There you go, audience. So, and you're planting a seed that will grow a society. It isn't. I think it's not just the negative aspects of the American culture that we want to propagate worldwide. There's a lot of good things.
Oh yeah.
In our culture that we need to propagate, and we want others worldwide to say, "Thank God for the Americans."
And one of the big differences that Americans can bring in the most casual ways when they come to a project or let's say a village in the third world, most of the third world lives very fatalistic lives. It's kind of like, if God wanted me to be rich, I'd be rich. God must want me to be poor because that's how I am. And an American blunders in there and says, baloney, let's change this. We believe in change, and we believe in improvement, and people catch that. They really do. Some of the nicest things that I have watched and shared with people is correspondence from a sponsor here in the United States to a child in a developing country. And let me just share one story with you. What we consider our best story of how successful things can be is now about 35 years ago, a young girl in Indonesia who was 11 at the time lost her father. And at that same time in Connecticut, a young father lost his daughter, who was 11 years old at the time. He became a sponsor, and he sponsored this girl named Priscilla. And he promised that if Priscilla got through college, he would give her a trip to the United States. And he made several trips to. We helped and implemented their contacts and so on. And Priscilla finished college, went to Connecticut, and while she was visiting there, a young man from Illinois came and was visiting some relatives down the block. The two of them fell in love. And 3 years ago, my wife and I were in Chicago, where Priscilla and her husband were named the model Asian American family in the United States.
Wow.
Wow,
What a gift. What a
Mm-hmm.
tremendous gift to America to have exemplary people like that here.
Yeah.
You know, that's what makes America such a great melting pot, that all of us can contribute our unique gifts from God in a positive way to help everyone in humanity. And I love to hear stories like that because it just demonstrates the opportunities that are here that don't exist elsewhere.
Oh yeah, and we've had programs in Appalachia. We've had programs. We sent volunteers for 5 years to New Orleans after Katrina, and helped rebuild the whole neighborhood. And again, the experience was transforming. This time it was between fellow Americans, some poor and some, coming from San Diego, not so poor. And again, it transformed their life. One of the things I love about the work I do is it changes people. And it changes them in the best possible way, and it brings out the best attributes that our country has, and the American society offers. And the other thing that's been neat and why I love my work is I have met some of the neatest people who care about others, both from developing nations and from places like Europe, Australia, and Southeast Asia, where I have just been privileged to meet some of the neatest people on Earth.
Culturally and religiously. I mean, your organization crosses all peoples, regardless of their religious point of view.
Oh, right. Absolutely. And our board is comprised of a whole mix of people, and let's see, we just put on the first I'm losing my mind here. The first Muslim, who is an interesting guy because about 15 years ago, I did the first wedding that I'd ever done with a Muslim and a Christian. And it was an interesting experience, but a neat testimony to both communities that you can get along. And that.
Absolutely, and if you're in the Sudan, you have to recognize you're going to run into some Muslims there.
Oh yeah.
So we have to, as in approaching this organization, your whole attempt is to be able to build a bridge, to be able to actually get to the most needy in that society.
Exactly.
And, that is a very important thing. I mean, in the early years of missionary work, you could go into a country and ruin the whole country.
Right.
Because you didn't know what you were doing as a missionary. You're trying to make them Westerners or something, completely violate their culture. So today we approach the needs of other nations with the respect and dignity and knowledge that they're coming from a certain point of view, a certain mindset, a certain history.
And you have to respect that. And I could tell you, let me give you one other story that comes from out of Central America. In probably some years back now, one of the senators from the United States was visiting the USAID/Peace Corps headquarters, and they went to show him a project. And there was a project that they showed him was a water wheel that a stream just bent the right way, and they could create this water wheel and build a wooden trough at the top, and it irrigated all the land, like I think about 10 acres. And the senator so loved this thing, he went back to Washington, and he got an appropriation for 100 of these water wheels. And about 3 months later, I was in the country. This was Honduras. And the AID director said, where in the world am I going to find 100 places where the water and the river turns just this way?
Yeah.
He said, if you know of any, you can have it all. So I guess what I want to say is you got to listen, and you got to really respect what the people think is the problem, and what they take as the solution.
Yeah, in other words, they may have been happy with just 10 of those wheels.
Yeah.
And they could have used a whole lot of money, maybe for some seeds, so that when they or maybe they needed some shovels to dig the ditches or something. I don't know. Yeah, it is a big. You just can't take one thing in isolation. You really have to look at the total picture of what this community needs. Obviously, you don't want to redirect water and then have malaria.
Yeah.
As a result, right?
Right.
So your planning, your organization takes into consideration the total demographic, the country, the species of that country, the needs of the people, their dietary habits, their academic or educational requirements, medical requirements. Everything is taken into consideration when you go into an area to assist.
Absolutely. It's kind of the only way you can really do things and really accomplish things. And the exciting thing is that AngelCare is the only organization doing that. There are more and more organizations from the United States working with people from Canada, from England, from Australia, and mostly Western Europeans. For instance, the Dutch are an extremely generous people who really know how to respect another culture. So it's just been a fun time for me.
You're listening to the ArtistFirst World Radio Network. Tony Kaye in the studio, and thank you very much to our special guest, Suzanne Graber, for introducing AngelCare and Dr. Ted Grosser to our worldwide audience. Thank you, Suzanne. Now, do you live, Suzanne, in proximity to Dr. Grosser and his lovely wife?
Well, I live in Los Angeles, and Dr. Grosser lives near San Diego, so I would say, it's about 125 miles or 150 miles from Los Angeles. But I see Dr. Grosser, I see him at a special service called Blessing of the Animals at a Hope Lutheran Church. It's a tradition with him. And I took her there on September 2nd. That was Labor Day weekend. And lo and behold, cameramen from KABC Channel 7 were there, and they televised it on the 11 o'clock news that night. And it was very, very special. I didn't realize it was from Channel 7, and all of a sudden I saw my puppy in there, and I said, oh my God, that's Holly Golightly. And the amazing thing is that she sat right up where Dr. Grosser was speaking, which she does every year. And I was a little nervous taking her in there because she's not used to cats. And a cat was sitting in someone's lap behind us. And she got me up, and she went to every member of the congregation while Dr. Grosser was speaking. And she wanted to be petted by everybody. And the little kids' faces just lit up. It was just so special, And so I see Dr. Grosser on occasion also when he comes up, to his church. It's quite beautiful. It actually, their 70th anniversary is coming up in November, and when the church burned down, it was a lot of Jewish businessmen, and I think a Jewish architect that helped rebuild the church. So I feel that I'm part of the community, and it's a nice place. Friends of mine, belong to it. And so I don't know how I got off on my puppy, but I love her. Anyway, I better turn this back to you again.
Dr. Grosser, then, there is a place. Do you currently minister? Do you speak or involved with a church?
I speak mostly where I've been invited.
Yeah, sure.
And I don't have a church. I've been pretty much dedicated and committed on a full-time basis to the work we're doing.
Oh, absolutely.
Kids all over the world.
Oh, my. I'm sure. It's plenty.
Let me share with you an experience, though, that ended up bringing Suzanne and I into a neat friendship. She mentioned that the church was arson, and while that happened in, I think, 1983, and I was between trips, and so heard about this, and our bishop said, you go help these folks because they need to build a new church. And I had built 3 of them during my career in parish ministry. And we worshiped in campers and tents and studios for 3 years before we had enough money to build a new church. And I just worked with them and lived with them, and they loved on me. And then I was in an auto accident in which a 18-wheeler changed lanes and didn't see me. And you are talking to probably one of the guys in the world with the most hip replacements in a 25-year period. I have had 13 full hip replacements, 6 on one side and 7 on the other. And at that point, shortly after that point, my wife and I moved down to San Diego, where all our children and grandchildren are, and the people at Hope Lutheran said, please come back and at least preach once a month. And I did that for years. And now I only go up 3-4 times a year. And during one of those trips, Suzanne came. And came into the church, and we met, and so on.
Right. I'm just so glad that I dropped in that night to hear you speak. I was just amazed. You know, you're a wonderful speaker. And I remember the last time I had set up an interview with architect Eric Lloyd Wright a couple of years ago on ArtistFirst, I had lost my dogs, and I remember I'd send you an email, and I was really sad, and you send me the most uplifting spiritual email back to me, and I just, I was so happy that I met you, really, and your wife, and your family, and your little dog at the last blessing of the animals. What can I say? It's just been a wonderful friendship, and I'm sure we'll continue on for many years. But before I leave, when you're discussing the needy children, something came to my mind. I remember when I was a kid, which was a long time ago, I remember my mom at the dinner table, like especially if she served liver and things that I didn't like, she'd say, Susie, if you don't finish your dinner, I'm going to send, your dinner to the poor starving children in Europe. And I said, well, Mom, go ahead, I'll get the package and you can send it to them, But I was very aware of needy children even when I was a kid, and, my mother always preached about brotherhood. She studied many religions, so I kind of followed suit a little bit. But when you brought up about the children, it's like here we have a safety net even with the poor children, and over there in third world countries there is no safety net, just poverty and early death, and, it's sad because these kids didn't ask to be, born, and, to have to live like this, it's just, horrible. And it's just so good that there are people like you that are helping, these children, because I see how you work, so tirelessly, and I wish you a lot more success with your organization for the future. And if there's anything I can do, like getting the word out, which I've been doing on MySpace and Facebook and my email list, about this radio interview, just contact me, okay? And in fact, my dog's been sitting on the bed listening to this whole interview, and she's been really quiet. Well, anyway, I could go on forever, So I better turn you two back to each other, okay?
Oh, thank you, Suzanne. You're the
God
best.
bless you,
God bless
Susan.
you. You're out there in a big way, I'll tell you. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Now, in April of 2010, AngelCare became a program division within Americans Care and Share. Dr.
Right.
Grosser, would you be kind enough to introduce that organization to our audience?
Okay, Americans Care and Share started out as a I just lost my head here.
Academic, right? College.
Yeah, it's the founder of AngelCare, excuse me, of Americans Care and Share is Anna Espino, and what happened is that how the organizations came together was I became very, very ill, and I resigned as the president of AngelCare. And one of the schools that we were probably going to close down was in a suburb of Manila called Marikina, and this is where Anna had grown up. And so she wanted to do everything she could to keep that program going. And so they merged and took over these programs. And Anna was giving a great deal of time and effort and energy, and suddenly she ended up with stage 4 cancer, breast cancer.
Oh, God.
And at about the same time, I had been diagnosed with a thing called pulmonary fibrosis, which is your lungs turn leathery and eventually they don't work anymore. Well, for who knows what reasons, I think God had it. Did it? My disease stopped halfway through my lungs, so half my lungs are destroyed, but half aren't. And so I came back and worked with the organization while Anna is fighting her battles. And the goal of Americans Care and Share primarily is to provide scholarships for first-generation Americans who want to go to trade school or college. And part of that comes out of Anna's experience and my own. I grew up in an immigrant family. And it is very, very hard for immigrants coming into the United States to save up the money and get a higher education. They understand that education is the only way they're going to get ahead in America, but how do they get it? And so we raise money and offer scholarships for them, for these first-generation Americans. And it gives them a leg up that I didn't have. When I was a little boy, my parents and grandparents were saving money so that I would go to school and willing to make all the sacrifices they could think of to get me educated so that I would have one leg up in society. And this was Anna's vision of Americans Care and Share, and we're going to fulfill that totally and as the years go on.
Helping children to live, to grow, to learn, and to dream. What a wonderful anthem for your organization. There are links all over the website, audience. AngelCare, the number 4, children.org. Share the link with everyone you know. Think about how you can become a regular donor or participant. Perhaps you have a young person in your family that would love to go for a month and you could sponsor them. So there's all kinds of ways to get involved. You can learn about the chairperson, the board of directors, the advisory council, financial report, and their hopes and dreams for the future at that website. There's information available for our angels in the media, frequently asked questions, hidden in the headlines of other projects that they're involved with. So invite everyone you know visit the website AngelCare, the number 4, children.org, or simply pick up the phone and call 1-619-481-3085 and get started today. Ted, thank you for your life in this organization, the service that you've given to young people worldwide, for your vision, your passion, and we wish you all of the best as you remain in His service, the Lord's service, and I hope can sort of retire. What are your plans? Are you going to write a memoir, or is this some special time for perhaps grandchildren?
Well, it's going to be a little bit of both. It'll be a real special time to spend with a whole other generation in our family of great-grandchildren, and it's fun to watch them. And then I'm going to do some writing.
Yeah, I always say, why couldn't I have my grandkids first?
Yeah.
In time of reflection, I'm sure over the decades you've probably, from time to time, written a few things.
Oh yeah. I just have to gather them together. Anyway, I appreciate the opportunity to share about AngelCare and to share about our story. Our life has really watched people change as they've given themselves in concern and in work for other people. And it really does change people.
I'm sure the list is long of those you would like to thank worldwide for their support and interest in the organization and contributions financially, spiritually, and a lot of sweat and blood and hard work. That list has to be long for you, and thank you for spending this time with us on ArtistFirst Radio. And Suzanne, thank you for introducing Dr. Ted Grosser and the organization to us. Any closing remarks, either one of you, before I let you go?
Well, I just appreciate ArtistFirst for contacting me when I sent out an email on behalf of his wife, Janet Grosser, to do this interview, because it's just, I've been leaning more toward humanities too. In fact, I introduced you to Dr. Ife Williams, Esquire, and of course she got very, very busy, being chair of National Congress of Black Women. She made me honorary member, and I thought, well, what am I supposed to do as honorary member? Maybe I'm supposed to just tell people about it. And then, she was appointed by President Obama to the Commission on Presidential Scholars, so she's been very, very busy. But and she used to have a weekly show with you. So I, at first, I would, introduce musicians to you. But, my humanities started when I was a candy striper in junior high in the Junior Blind Foundation, working with at Orthopedic Hospital after school. And then when my father died when I was 16, I think it gave me more compassion too, because it was a struggle, for my mom to be left with two kids, fairly young kids, and and we weren't super rich, and I had to go to work at an early age. But that's all behind me, and I'm just so glad that we're here during the season of joy. It's called Sukkot, and our holiest day just ended, Yom Kippur, where we repent for our sins. And I said that I didn't do anything wrong, why am I repenting? But there's always something you could find that you have done wrong in your lifetime during the year. And I showed up at the Orthodox rabbi's temple. My girlfriend was on your show 5 years ago for her magazine Shoshanim, and everything's in Hebrew, and I never learned Hebrew very well. And they just rewarded me after sundown on Yom Kippur that I stayed there, but I was reading the English, but everybody was speaking in Hebrew. And some people are just better at languages than others. But I can't thank you from the bottom of my heart for this interview because it's so special, and so is Dr. Grosser.
Thank
and
you.
I hope he lives a very long time so I can come with my puppy to Blessing of the Animals.
Thank you, Suzanne. And Dr. Ted Grosser, any closing remarks or anyone out there on planet Earth you'd like to say hello to?
No, what I'd like to say to anyone who thinks they might like to help people and has any kind of feeling toward children who need chances to live and to get educated and to be able to dream, that they should try it. Just try it, and it'll change you, and you'll be glad you did it. And I think that's all.